I solemnly swear that I am up to no good.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 21 of the Tales from Godric's Hollow podcast. We are recording this on November 22nd, a Tuesday night, a day later than usual, but I promise you it's not a dollar short. 2016. This is our movie episode, the recap of the second film in the Harry Potter series, Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. We're going to be breaking down the entire film, what we thought of the movie, what we liked, definitely what we didn't like, so on and so forth. I am the muggle of the show, one of the co-hosts, Josh Brown. I am joined by the mentor of movies himself, Professor Matt Sonnenberg.
Hello. How are we doing tonight?
Fantastic. Other than a really bad case of allergies destroying my face and my head today, doing pretty good.
And you're blaming all that on Washington, I hear.
Here's the thing, Matt. I was in SoCal from Thursday until last night, right?
Okay.
Southern California.
Yep.
I didn't have a single runny nose. I wasn't coughing. I wasn't sneezing. I was feeling great. That dry, beautiful 75-degree weather of Southern California, mid-November, perfect. Absolutely perfect. Got home late last night, woke up this morning, and it felt like I had been hit by a Mack truck. It was just the most awful thing ever. And not just me. Val woke up with a scratchy throat and a little bit of a cough, and she's been sneezing. Allergies, man. Pacific Northwest. I never had allergy problems until I moved up here. Took a few years to get used to it, but just going away for a few days, coming back into it, and 100% blaming it on my environment.
So is this something that happens year-round then, just living up there, or is it something that it's this time of year?
So I noticed I moved up here when I was 16, so about 16, 17 years ago. I didn't really notice allergy symptoms starting to happen until about maybe 9 or 10 years ago, and it seems to be heaviest in the spring and mid-fall for whatever reason. Summer, just fine. Through the winter, no problem.
I've noticed that it's usually during the change of seasons.
Yeah.
Those I think those are kind of the most drastic ones.
Right. But I'd never experienced this living in California. And
well, you always had the same weather down in California.
Yeah, that's true. No, it's absolutely true. So, yeah, I'll blame it on the Pacific Northwest. My body, I think, got too used to the beautiful weather, and it kind of panicked when it got back into rain and cold. And
sure,
it was weird because, like I said, it was 75 degrees, not a cloud in the sky most of our trip down there. Perfect weather. Driving back, coming back up through the mountains in Northern California, we had to pass de-icing trucks on the road that were de-icing the freeway because it was, hills and slippery and whatnot. And it's like, that is such a drastic change of events from where we were 8 hours ago.
Yep.
So just that alone was plenty indication that, this is a whole new ball game up here. So.
Oh yeah, I mean we're very used to that here in Wisconsin.
Right.
We get those. We between one day and the next we can have a 40 to 50 degree change in the weather, which means you can go from like 70 degrees one day to 30 degrees and snowing the next.
Ugh, no, thank you.
Yeah, it's actually snowing tonight. So.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, we turned our heater on for the first time this year.
Our heater's been on for the past 2 weeks.
Yeah. I'm also wearing my new Hufflepuff hoodie that I bought.
Looks very nice.
Wizarding World of Harry Potter. I saw it. I'm like, ooh, that is a very pretty yellow and gray sweatshirt, which I don't have enough yellow in my wardrobe. And just the look of it, the feel of it, it's nice and comfy. I'm embracing the Hufflepuff within me, Matt.
I like it.
It's something I'm getting used to. I'm still adapting to. I'm still not 100% happy about my placement in the Hufflepuff house, but who am I to argue with the Sorting Hat, right?
There you go.
So if I'm going to be a Hufflepuff, I might as well be proud of it. So this is my attempt to show the world that I am Hufflepuff and proud, and also very warm because it's a nice sweatshirt. So
sounds good.
Yeah. I have plenty of stories from
I'm sure you do.
to the Wizarding World of Harry Potter at Universal Studios Hollywood. We are actually going to be saving it for a future Butterbeer Banter episode.
It's true.
Because if I sat here and told you all about my vacation, Matt, we would never talk about the movie. And it's what we're here for. So, a future episode, I promise I will talk all about my trip, my experiences, what I saw, what I recognized, what I was confused by, because there are lots of questions I walked out of that park with. Nobody wanted to give me answers. It's kind of like those, if you're in the know, you shouldn't be asking, and if you're asking, then you probably shouldn't know in the first place, type of thing. I'll give you a little spoiler though for just one topic of conversation on Butterbeer Banter coming up sometime in the future. Moaning Myrtle in the bathroom was the funniest and kind of most disturbing thing I've experienced in a public bathroom before. Because
Yep. I mean, the worst part is that she ends up in both bathrooms. Like in the movie or in the book, okay, she's in the girls' bathroom, cool,
right.
But yeah, it's kind of weird when you go in and it's like, huh, okay.
And I probably heard it back in June when we went together, before I embarked on my journey through Harry Potter, and I probably didn't think anything of it. I may have even asked about it. I don't even remember. It didn't ring a bell, So going into it this time, hearing her voice, hearing her splash around, holy cow, that was frightening beyond belief. Very well done though. Like, hats off to like the little details like that, because if you're going to have a restroom in the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, of course, Moaning Myrtle should be in there, just hanging out, doing her thing. So,
absolutely. Why not have it haunted?
Right. So, could have done without her splashing around, but, definitely that and many more stories to come from my trip to the Wizarding World of Harry Potter on a future episode of Butterbeer Banter. So, just giving people a little teaser of what to expect. Also, we have some big news. We have some exciting news for this show, this podcast that you're listening to right now, Tales from Godric's Hollow. We will be announcing that at the end of the show, so be sure to stick around for that. They'll probably be right after our email segment, but it's really, really awesome. I definitely encourage you guys to stick around. I know many people just turn off a podcast once they hit the end of it. They don't need to hear sign-offs and whatnot, but it's big news. Don't want to spend too much time on it now because we'll break it all down at the very end, but we hope it's something that you guys will enjoy and embrace. And it's going to be a good thing for everybody involved, I think. So,
I hope so.
Yeah, hope so. If not, we could just say we tried. And moved on. And we could flush it down the Moaning Myrtle toilet if need be.
And hope she doesn't throw it back up.
Yeah. Another thing, Matt, you put up a Muggle poll on the Twitter account. With a 1 week deadline. So you have a whole week to respond to it. Matt, you want to tell the people what the Muggle poll is in case they haven't seen it yet on Twitter, and how they will be helping the show by voting on it.
Yeah, so normally I just put the poll up for about 6 hours, so it ends about the time we start recording the show. But This time, I wanted to get as much input as possible because it's going to directly affect the show. And it's something that people have commented on in the past, and we have been trying a few different things over the past couple weeks to give you a taste of something different and see how that plays out. So it's in regard to the recap that we typically do at the beginning of each show. Obviously, we're not going to do it this week because we'd just be recapping the entire book. And we're not going to do it next week because we are starting a new book, so there's nothing really to recap. But once we get back into the swing of things in the new book, then we will get to that point where we would ask you normally to do a recap of the previous 2 chapters.
Right.
That was getting a little lengthy, so we decided, okay, we're going to limit you to 3 minutes and give you the 3-minute recap. And a lot of people actually seem to like that.
Yeah.
But of course, then the other option is, well, okay, do we even need that? Do we need to recap at all? Like I said, it's a weekly thing, so you could either just deal with it, not knowing what we said last week, and we'll tell you as we go through the episode. It's like, oh, and last week when we said this, blah 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 blah, kind of thing. Or just you could go back and listen to that episode if you're really curious.
Right.
So that's what we're looking at. We want your input. We want to know what you want to hear.
Yep.
So just 2 simple options. Do we keep the 3-minute recap, or do we go to a no recap format?
Right. And all of it was my fault to begin with because, I got really into the recap some week and I started ranting and rambling and you couldn't stop me because, just like Juggernaut and X-Men, once you start, gaining momentum, you can't stop me. I just go.
Yep.
So that was all my fault. And you took the brunt of it because you had to deal with everybody's angry emails about me talking nonsensically for 20 minutes sometimes. And then, I came up with a 3-minute time frame that seemed to work out. Then last week, I threw it against the wall and said, nope, I'm not doing a recap because I got some things to talk about, and just decided not to do it altogether. I'm the rogue one here. I'm the one playing by my own rules. You're doing your best to contain me, and I don't think you get enough credit for the job.
We got y'all riled up now.
Yeah. So, but we definitely want the people's opinion because this is a show for you guys.
Like we've talked about it off air, and we're both okay with either of these options.
Yep.
We're okay doing the 3-minute. We're okay cutting it. That's why we want to hear from you guys. Let us know what you would rather hear. And honestly, whatever the poll comes down to, that's what we're going to go with, I think.
Yeah.
So,
and as you've seen in 20 episodes now, we're definitely willing to adapt and change as the audience changes and demands different things. So nothing is set in stone forever. We like to keep things fluid and organic and ever changing to best fit the audience. So just keep that in mind. But we definitely want to hear what you guys think of those 2 options. And by episode 22, 23?
23 will be the next recap. Yeah.
Yes. We'll either have the recap or it will be chopped off at the head.
You got it.
Killed for the time being. In this world, things that are dead aren't necessarily dead. Let's just be real here. There's a chance that like Professor Quirrell is going to come back, as far as I'm concerned, in some form or fashion. We're going to have a reemergence of a giant snake. I am just under the impression that nothing is ever truly dead.
Nothing is quite what it seems.
That is also true and very frightening to think about because now I'm going to start questioning everything, Matt.
Yep.
As I should. So, with that being said, let's talk about this movie, shall we?
Yeah. We got the second movie in the series, Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, same title as the book.
Right.
As I watched it, these movie episodes, I mean, we've only been through one, but I still struggle with them a little bit. It's like, well, what do you talk about? And because it is basically just a recap, and I could just go through and tell you, well, this was different and this was different, and I didn't like it.
Sure.
But I have a couple of those things, but I think it's usually when I had something to say about it, or this time I really had a lot of things that, like, little details I noticed, or something someone said made me think of something else that I've never thought of before. Even like reading books or watching the movies, like I've done dozens of times. Like it just hit me. It's like, wait, that's kind of weird. I wonder. So I have a couple of those things that we'll pull out and we can talk about, but I don't know. What do you have in mind?
Let's start off with two characters.
Yeah.
Two major players in this book. And I was excited to see their film adaptations of Moaning Myrtle, who we've already talked about, and Professor Lockhart.
Of course.
So we have to talk about these performances. Moaning Myrtle, I thought, was done well.
Yep.
Okay. I thought that her voice was a little too over the top whiny.
Sure.
And a little too trying to show off like the quote unquote moaning part of her personality.
Yeah.
A little over dramatic, you know? Like there's that one kid in every theater class that is just a little too into it, you know?
Sure.
That was Moaning Myrtle's performance, I thought. And I don't know if that was like the actor that was playing Moaning Myrtle or the effects that were added on after the fact, but it was just a little too much.
Well, I'll tell you this here. I don't think they actually did too much, because I can't remember what movie it was now, but there was some movie just playing on TV one day. It was in the background, and I just heard this voice. I'm like, that sounds really familiar. And I looked up and like I didn't recognize anybody. I didn't recognize the movie. I had no idea. And then all of a sudden it clicked. I'm like, that is Moaning Myrtle. And like the voice was there. And I think most of it honestly comes from the actress's voice.
Okay.
So it's kind of weird. Like it's one of those casting decisions that time and again I find myself saying they did an amazing job casting these movies.
Mm-hmm.
It just blows my mind the more I think about it. It's like these people playing these parts are perfect.
Right.
Like I could not have picked better people if I tried.
Yeah, I just maybe this is my own fault and my own decision subconsciously to have some sort of perception of who I thought Moaning Myrtle was. Sure.
I mean, when you're reading the book, you either draw up a picture or hear a voice in your head. And I can guarantee you that's what happened to me and a lot of other people just with like Hogwarts in general.
Yeah.
When we were reading the books the first time, we had this picture in our head, and then they gave us the movies. And for a lot of people, I guarantee you it was not what they were picturing.
Sure. With her, just I think she was a little too happy in a weird way, like a little too.
So you're expecting like more of a gloomy, downcast type of voice,
like sadness from inside out.
Okay.
Just very dreary and gloomy and just kind of just beaten down. And Moaning Myrtle in the movie was a little too upbeat for my liking.
Well, I think they were doing a couple things with it. One, we didn't see her nearly as much in the movie as we did in the book.
Right.
So they didn't really have time to kind of evolve her, because like you mentioned towards the end of the book, like she actually did get kind of happy, like when Harry asked her about her death.
Yes.
well, like she did get happier, and that was about half of what we saw in the movie.
Right.
What was like after that point, and so it like that's your first impression yet of Myrtle being formed, and half of it is happy.
Right.
And like I'll give you, yeah, she was more upbeat in the beginning, but I think they did kind of give her a, I mean, like you said, it was kind of melodramatic, but it was also almost kind of like manic. But like she was just all over the place.
Yes. Yes.
Like she could flip a switch and go from one to the other in a second.
Yeah. I guess I just expected more depression sounding, like the tonal shift from how she was through most of the book up until the point when like Harry asked her about her death, and she like brightened right up and she was excited to talk. Like it wasn't enough of a shift from her previous attitude. You know, it was just like she smiled, you know, so you could visibly see that she was excited to talk about it, but overall I didn't get the impression that it was that big of an impact for her to be asked that question and be engaged in that way. Like I have always pictured her since we started reading the book of just being super depressed because people don't go in the restroom anymore. Like that restroom is closed off because nobody wants to deal with her. So she is a loner. She's dead. You know, she died in a not so wonderful way, but nobody cares about her. Nobody wants to get to know her. Nobody treats her like the other ghosts that are floating around Hogwarts. And maybe that's her own doing because of how sad and depressed she is, but she was also a little girl when she died. So she kind of has that hall pass of being sad and depressed and moody about it. So,
yeah,
you know, I pictured her as being super reclusive and super withdrawn from any sort of expression of happiness or joy up until, you know, Harry engaged her about her death. But the movie kind of didn't follow that as well as I had hoped.
Yeah, and I mean, the other thing I was thinking, like, she was 14 when she died.
Mm-hmm.
So she's not necessarily gonna even have that range of emotion.
Yeah. Well,
And
I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah.
Who knows? Lockhart.
Yes.
What a wonderful job casting Lockhart.
Yes.
And that one I will give you 100% credit for being the best choice that they could possibly come up with.
Mm-hmm.
I expected longer hair, I think.
Flowing golden locks.
Yeah, a little bit more flowing, you know, like 80s pro wrestler flowing. But like his grin, his just overall look of I am making this up every time I say something just was spot on.
It was very well done.
Yeah.
Like so many times I wanted to kind of reference the movie when we were reading the book, whether it be a line he gives us, which a lot of them are straight from the book,
mm-hmm.
but just in certain instances, it's like I wanted to say it with this cheesy grin on my face, and it's like, well, right. You can't even see that. So
yeah,
but yeah, it's so well done, even though we don't necessarily care for the character, and that's something I was going to mention too. Is at least in the first half of the movie, compared to the book, we get very little Lockhart.
Right.
He is not nearly as intrusive and obnoxious as he was in the book.
He could have popped up so much more in that film.
Yeah, and you probably would have been okay with it because at that point it's like a visual gag almost.
Yes.
It's not just, oh, this guy's here again. It's like you want to see what stupid thing he's going to do now.
Right. He's kind of underutilized in the movie.
Sure.
And because of who was the actor playing the character,
Kenneth Branagh.
Yeah, and just the overall. By the end of it, like I felt the same way I did in the book, where I'm sad to see him go. Like I could definitely have him hanging around as he is, and be this very naive, kind of just oblivious to everything guy in Hogwarts that used to be a professor who knows some magic. Like I could deal with him being around, especially like you said, for that visual gag aspect of just him popping up and wondering what's going on and just being blown away by everything magical he sees.
Yeah.
So sad to see him go. Which
So
is weird to say.
Yep. How about the Burrow? What'd you think of that?
It it felt like they were in a Tim Burton film.
Okay.
Just
I can see that.
The inside the house was just, it was wacky enough and Dr. Seuss-esque.
Yes.
Tim
yes.
Burton, Alice in Wonderland, like everything's just a little bit off. And they definitely did spend enough time there.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll tell you now. We will revisit the Burrow later on.
I assumed. Yeah.
It's probably still not enough for you, but the note I made is, as great as the Burrow is, even as they portrayed in the movie, like it just doesn't compare to the Burrow I have in my head.
Right.
Like that, it's just scratching the surface of what they could have done. I think.
Oh, absolutely. I want to see Ron's room. I want to see. Okay. Positives first. Mr. Weasley, another perfect casting choice. Like,
yes,
him talking to the boys about stealing the car
Yep.
was exactly how I pictured that scene going down.
I'm glad.
Yeah, so they nailed that spot on, because he's supposed to be an authoritative figure. He's supposed to be a parent. He's supposed to be mad, and he's supposed to punish them like Mrs. Weasley wants him to do. And he's so excited that the car flew and that it worked, and he wants to know all about it. And he's just in love with the fact that, like, they did this, even though he's not supposed to be, you know?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I speaking of Mr. Weasley, I just love him so much. The more we see of him, and like, did you caught his line about the rubber duck?
Maybe.
What, like, they're sitting there at the breakfast table, and he's like, "So Harry, you must know everything about Muggles. So what exactly is the purpose or the function of a rubber duck?"
That's right.
Like I always have to go back and check, because I've seen the movie so many times. Like, wait, was that in the book?
Yeah.
It seems like something that could have been, but no, I'm pretty sure that's not in the book.
No. Yeah.
And it's like, good addition. Like there are very few times. I hate to say it, but there are very few times in these movies that I will say that was a good addition.
Right.
But it's little lines like that it just give you that little chuckle, that make you laugh, that give you a little more of that person's personality, which is perfect, because we always talk about how much of a Muggle lover he is, and how much he wants to know about them and what they do and how they tick and why they do things they do. And then he brings up questions like that. It's like, yeah, what is the purpose of a rubber duck?
Well, yeah, and everything in the wizard world, from what we've seen, has a purpose.
Yep.
There's a reason to own it, a reason to use it, a reason to need it. Whereas a rubber duck in our Muggle world, like, there is no real reason for having a rubber duck at all.
No, but I would bet you a good, 75% of households have one.
Probably, or have had one, at some point.
At some point,
yeah. And so I love the fact that he's curious and interested about little small details about the Muggle life that, to the rest of us, is just every day. Like that you would never think twice about a rubber duck, but he's just fascinated. He's like, "Tell me more. Please tell me more."
This is something we don't have.
Yeah. You're telling me it does nothing? It just floats there in water? It doesn't even talk to you? Like,
nope. Doesn't move on its own.
Right. I know this was probably hard for you, Matt.
Yeah.
When we were reading the book, I'm sure you were biting your tongue and gagging yourself when I was going on and on and on about the denoming section of the story and
Yep.
how excited I was to see it in the book. And if I remember correctly, I think I even questioned whether or not it would even make it into the movie.
You did.
And you didn't break my heart. You could have. You could have just ended the dream right then and there.
Yep.
And I texted you while I was watching the movie about how sad I was that they just skipped right over it.
It's true. Yeah, I thought about it for a minute, whether or not it was better to, rip the Band-Aid off right then and there and let you know, or to just stick with it and not tell you anything. And I went with the latter, of course, and decided I'm just not going to tell you anything about the movie. I'm going to let you let your mind run wild and come up with all the dreams and let your mind picture what things could be. And I because honestly, that's kind of what we're doing here, is trying to let you go through this like the rest of us did.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you're not the only one who was hoping for that scene and never got it.
There's not even a reference to it, Matt. Like, not even a mention of
the closest we get. Does Mrs. Weasley pull out Lockhart's book while they're at the Burrow yet?
No.
Okay. So they basically just skipped over it.
Yeah.
And like it's one of those things that like I understand it's not needed for the plot. It's not super important, but you could have already kind of touched on Lockhart. Make that an excuse for putting it in there,
right?
Or something like that. That's your first mention of Lockhart. It's like, oh yeah, she already, because in the book that's actually where we get the line that Mum fancies him.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Whereas in the movie, they had to stick that line. It was a good line. They wanted that line in there, and so they had to stick it in the bookstore when they first introduced Lockhart then.
Right.
Because they didn't put it back in the Burrow.
And in my head, I started getting confused about the sequence of events because once they went to the bookstore and everything that transpired from there, I was thinking, wait, do they go back to the Burrow? Is that when the denoming happens after we know about like Lockhart? So, like, I held out hope just long enough that I was like, well, maybe they're going to go back. Maybe there's still time to throw this little, part of the story in there. But like you said, it's not part of the story. It doesn't add anything to the story that's trying to be told. But at the same time,
it doesn't add anything to the Chamber of Secrets, but it adds a lot to the world of Harry Potter.
Yeah, it's environmental storytelling.
Yes,
it makes the Burrow where they're at more magical than any other house.
Yep.
Because
like they have a garden, but it's not your normal garden.
Right.
They have gnomes, but they're not your normal garden gnomes.
Sure.
It turns it shows you that there is a parallel between like our house and their house, but everything, including the garden at their house, is going to be magical.
Right. I wanted the experience to feel like it was in the book, where Harry was just blown away with everything that he experienced at their house, because he went from the Dursleys, which is boring and dull and drab and quite depressing, especially for him, to this magical house where these, all these kids are students at this school of wizardry. The parents are involved with the wizarding world. Like, there's all these magical things happening in this house that is just everyday life for them. But to Harry, it's the coolest place he's ever been other than Hogwarts.
Yep.
And they didn't portray that as powerfully as it was portrayed in the book.
I'll definitely agree with that. Yep.
So it wasn't just me being selfish and wanting to see a denoming in action, because I do want to see that, but it just I wanted Harry to feel like it was as special as it was.
Sure.
And it kind of felt like just a stop along the way before they got to Hogwarts. Even when they were taking off in the car, they could have like maybe zoomed in for like 2 seconds and shown little gnomes walking around the garden or something like that. There were ways to do it. I understand them cutting it, but at the same time, I'm still disappointed.
Yeah, I understand your disappointment.
Yeah. Let's see here. The platform 9 3/4.
Okay.
In my head, when we read the book, I was under the impression that Ron and Harry tried to go through at the same time.
I believe that's actually how it's written. Yes.
Okay, and that's where I started to put the pieces together of whoever's keeping Harry out. That's why Ron couldn't get through, also because he was going through with Harry.
Yeah.
Now in the movie, they showed him going one at a time.
Well, I mean, in the movie, that's how the set was made.
Yeah.
So I mean, they're definitely, unless they changed the set, there definitely wouldn't be room for them to like go side by side.
Right. But so I immediately started to question how I read it in the book.
Yeah.
Because I was like, well, why couldn't Ron go through?
And I think they worked it out pretty well for the movie adaptation.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you end up with the same characters in the same places. I don't necessarily agree with how or why they were sent through in that order, but I mean, you could argue that in the book too. It's like, well, why did Harry and Ron go last? That seems weird.
Yeah. So just a little thing like that. If we're being nitpicky here. Another big disappointment for me, Matt. Now, I was already bummed. This is like possibly the biggest disappointment for me. I was already bummed about the denoming not happening in the garden.
Yes.
And I accepted that. Right. But the total and utter removal of the Death Day celebration.
Yep. I knew that was going to get you too, because that honestly, yeah, is one of my favorite parts. Like, it's just, I don't know.
It was
what
a whole
it is.
chapter.
Yeah, I think part of the reason it hit so hard is because, yeah, it was a whole chapter, and it's something that's so different from anything we do.
Right.
I mean, well, anything we can do, really. We don't have ghosts that we talk to regularly
Sure.
that could celebrate these things.
As far as you know.
So, well, you haven't told me about them yet. But yeah, so it's one of those things that just like the denoming, like you can write it off as, yeah, it's not really integral to the story, because the main focus there is nearly headless Nick and the not the Bloody Baron, but the other guy that shows up who won't let him into the hunt.
Mm-hmm.
And he like, that's the whole purpose of it. And we don't see Nick enough in the movie to really warrant giving him that much screen time. And yeah, in the book, that is our first introduction to Moaning Myrtle.
Right.
But like you said, when you read that in the book, you thought Myrtle was going to be a one-off. You didn't think we'd see her again.
That's true. That's true.
So like, yeah, she was introduced there, but obviously you can just introduce her in the bathroom.
Yeah.
So,
and at the same time, I feel like in the movies, I'm not connected to the ghosts in Hogwarts at all.
sure.
Like, that gave me reason to care that nearly headless Nick was petrified.
It's a good point. Yeah, that Harry had kind of developed a relationship with him.
Yeah, he understood them a little bit more, and we've seen them pop up there and there throughout the movies, but nothing substantial to where it feels like the ghost of Hogwarts are important to Hogwarts. Other than just being there.
Yeah.
Little bit of storytelling that I feel I just want to see the celebration. I want to see a whole bunch of ghosts doing ghost things, and just the fun visuals that could have happened with walking through them, and the ghost eating food like a la Slimer and Ghostbusters. Just,
Yes.
like I want to see that stuff because that's fun, and that would have been a fun addition to the movie. And
Yep.
it wasn't just a couple paragraphs in one chapter. It was an entire chapter just thrown out the window.
Yeah, and it's little things like that I will never quite understand Hollywood and the decisions they make. Like it just it feels like it wouldn't even have to be like half the movie or anything. That's not what we're asking for. We're asking for 5 minutes, maybe less even.
Sure.
You could get away with a scene of this, and like it's not involving a ton of lines from the actors, and most of it, okay, it's going to require a lot of CG work, I guess.
Yeah.
But other than that, like, it doesn't feel like that big of an ask to put an extra 3 minutes in the movie.
Right. Which I think the audience would really appreciate and enjoy, and it would be fun, especially for readers of the book who are expecting it. But it would be also a fun visual thing for people that are just watching the film to get a better understanding of how deep and complex Hogwarts as a whole really is.
Yeah, and it's one of those things too that it kind of makes me wonder sometimes if they did actually film that at some point, and then when they're watching the movie, if somehow for some reason it actually like just killed the flow of the movie, right? Like that's the only thing I can come up with. Like if they just, when they're writing up the script, said no, we're not doing this, like I don't feel that's right at all.
Sure.
Like if you tried it and you can honestly tell me it's like it just didn't work out, okay, I can probably be okay with that.
Right.
But I don't know. I guess I get the feeling that's not what happened.
Yeah. Me too, Matt. Me too. Do you have anything you want to talk about? I feel like I'm monopolizing all the points of interest here.
Well, there were a couple of just interesting things I noticed. Well, interesting to me at least. That since I've watched this so many times, I sit down and actually watch it closer and see what have I missed. What have I missed?
Right.
And so when we were in Harry's bedroom, right at the beginning, there's a book on his nightstand titled "Witch Owl." And
I remember seeing that. Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of caught me off guard. It's like, well, okay, it's a book about owls, deciding which owls get. But Harry has a perfectly good owl. He has like the best owl out there. Why are you reading a book about which owl to pick? Like,
because he has nothing else to do in that house other than read the same books over and over.
I don't know. It just seemed out of place to me.
Sure.
But, another thing that caught me was when they're at the Burrow. Percy. He's sitting there down at breakfast, and his hair is all over the place.
Yeah.
And that just seemed totally out of character. I'm like, he's perfect Percy.
Right.
Like I can't see him ever leaving his room if his hair is not perfect.
No, perfectly groomed, looking spot on, tie is perfect. Like,
but there he is sitting in his striped pajamas, and his hair is all wild, and like I had that, like, okay,
sure,
it's not what I expect from Percy. But.
Yeah. You mentioned the owl.
Yes.
Owls.
Yes.
I was laughing hysterically at the owl in this film. I do not remember the owl's name at the moment.
Was it the Weasley's owl?
Yes.
Errol.
That was the funniest bird in the history of film. I felt so bad for the owl.
Yeah.
I loved watching Ron's reaction when it would like crash land or, just it was like, oh my god, I can't believe we still have this stupid owl. Like, this is
And when it keeps showing up in front of other people, then and of course doing stupid things,
right, right.
Like I said, like crash landing on the table in the middle of the breakfast or whatever,
Mhm.
and or when they got their letters at the burrow, it like crashes into the window.
Yep.
Okay.
So well done, so well done. And
Yeah.
I feel bad for that owl. Like, clearly the owl shouldn't be out flying.
And then even Hagrid picks on him at the end when he's like, yeah, sorry I'm a little bit late because his release papers from Azkaban
Yep.
were delivered by some ruddy bird called Errol. Like, yeah, it's a little old, a little beat up.
Yeah, a little confused.
Not necessarily like I guess he's reliable enough. He always gets the job done.
Sure.
Just
Eventually.
Not very smoothly or not on time necessarily, but he'll get the job done.
Yeah. Scenes that I saw that I was not looking forward to.
I think there are a few of those.
Yeah. The spiders.
Yeah. So, okay. I just want to start with the first spiders we saw.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The first spiders we saw were coming out of the castle. They were leaving the castle.
Right.
And I 100% understand needing them to be big enough to actually physically see on screen.
Right.
But if you look at those spiders, those are already pretty large spiders.
Yeah.
Like they are the spiders I occasionally see outside that they must die.
Right.
I will hunt them down until they die because I do not want them anywhere near my house.
Right.
But like, so I understand the need for them, but at the same time, it wasn't just one. It was a whole line of them, like dozens of them leaving the castle at once. I'm like, if I saw that, I would find the largest book from the library and just go smash them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
those spiders aren't allowed to stay alive.
Yeah. I don't care if they're leaving the castle, that they shouldn't be there, and there's too many of them.
Yep.
Then as we were getting into the forest, like the spiders they were following there, they got even bigger.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, what is this? They get bigger as they get further into the forest. They just grow as they're all going to be the size of Aragog by the time we reach the Hollow. I don't know. And the other thing that caught me is that there are, like, I understand there were a lot of spiders, but there were way too many spiders pictured in that movie.
Yeah.
There were literally thousands of them. And I understand big families and spiders reproduce very quickly and in large numbers, but no, they're way too many spiders.
But honestly, that's how I pictured it happening.
Did you?
Yeah, it was just that many, just gross little things. I appreciate they didn't pick the boys up and carry them the way they described in the book.
Yeah. Like, I think to make that happen, like, all of the spiders would have probably had to be Aragog size.
Right.
To make it feasible, because like the average spider we saw there, of the big ones, I don't think they could have picked, like, they were smaller than the kids.
Right.
So I don't think they could have picked them up.
Yeah. But I definitely expected and braced for a scene with that many spiders.
Sure.
Which doesn't make me feel better about it. But it definitely was like, yep, that's what I pictured happening. That's gross.
It was your worst nightmare coming to life.
Too much. Also, another scene that I was absolutely dreading, was, of course, the barfing of slugs.
The slugs, yes.
Oh, God, Matt.
They did a real good job with it, didn't they?
As vivid and realistic as the description was in the book, seeing it and hearing the noise.
Yep.
Oh, God. I could do without that scene time and time again. Like, I wish I could just just eliminate that from the film because, oh, it's so horrible. It's so horrible, Matt.
I believe it.
Oh, God. I don't know how people watch that over and over again and not get completely grossed out because it's a bad deal. It's well done. Don't get me wrong. It's well done. It serves its purpose perfectly. But, oh, God, I could do without it.
So I just had to look this up now because it got me wondering about. I don't think I've ever looked up like how they did it or anything. And so it's not completely CG.
Really?
Like I'm not entirely sure about the slugs themselves, but there was actually some slime at least.
Like physically coming out of his mouth.
So here, I'll read a little article here.
Okay.
The title of this article is "Puking Scene in Potter Causes Real Life Mess." Apparently, there were kids that were watching this movie that ended up puking at this scene.
Yeah, no kidding.
But there's a quote from Rupert Grint, who plays Ron. He says, "That was so fun because they had all these different flavors of slug slime. There was chocolate, there was lemon, there was orange, there was peppermint. All these different flavors, they made them taste really nice."
Gross.
So they gave him real slime, but they flavored it for him nicely at least.
Oh.
But yeah, that there was some physical slime going on.
Hats off to him because that's so bad, so bad. Horrible scene, Matt.
I think the hardest part for me, if I was playing his part, would be not smiling after I puke it up.
Yeah.
Like, that tastes good. Ugh. No, you have to have this like horrified look on your face.
Okay, moving on. Dobby.
Yes.
Oh God, did I love Dobby?
My first note actually was that in the beginning, when we first meet him, he actually beats himself a lot more viciously than I remembered.
Yes, he is brutal.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of a surprise. I mean, maybe it's just how house elves are, but like, I'm surprised he's not like more bruised and battered and like, yeah, he is beat up. He's old, but yeah, just the fact that he doesn't have more like physical marks of beating.
Right, because he beat himself with a lamp.
Yep.
And the dresser drawer. And just
anything he could get his hands on.
Yeah, pretty much. I thought he was really well done. He was just creepy enough to be cautious of at first, but still likable. You know, with the big doughy eyes and just his verbiage, the way he talks. Was very endearing. Watching him beat himself up was very sympathetic towards the audience. Like you want to grab him and cuddle him and hold him and tell him to stop doing that, Dobby.
Yeah, it depends who you ask, but
that's true.
Because I don't know what it is, but myself, my wife, I think she's in the same boat I am. I think my brother would probably agree with me. So maybe it's just my family, people I associate with. Like, I don't consider myself an uncaring person, but like, I just don't care for Davi. Like, I don't care how sad or sympathetic they make him seem. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, he's still.
I don't get attached the way a lot of people do.
He's still mischievous. You still are mad at him for getting Harry in trouble. For being completely reckless and.
I think I'd get stuck there.
Yeah,
it's like he just causes too much trouble. No, thank you.
He's selfish. Like Harry's trying to tell him to be quiet, and he's like, "No, I'm trying to make a point here." So I get that, but then it's like, God, you're watching this little guy just beat himself up, and it's too much. Just bad Dobby. Yeah. I get why you would see the other side of it though. I absolutely do.
Sure.
Another big
The
thing.
Womp.
Oh, the
Yeah.
Whomping Willow.
Yeah.
Fantastic scene.
Yeah.
That was fun.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's they did very well with that tree,
Mm-hmm.
and the fact that they put a car in the tree with
Right.
people in it.
Yep.
Like what?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It felt like the tree had some force behind it. You know.
Yeah.
It was punching with a
Absolutely.
purpose. So, yeah, I definitely like that for sure.
The other line that always gets me every time I watch the movie, especially since it's not in the book too, so it's only when I watch a movie. But when Snape is kind of starting to reprimand him
Mm-hmm.
for crashing into the Whomping Willow,
Right.
and he gives him the line, "A Whomping Willow that's been on these grounds since before you were born."
Yeah.
And I totally understand the point they're trying to make, but I'm like, it's been on these grounds for at least 13 years.
It's like, well, yeah. Do you see how big that tree is? It's like several hundred years old.
Exactly. And so since before you were born, like since before Dumbledore was born or something like that would be a lot more powerful than since before Ron and Harry were born.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
13 years. That's a great tree there. So yeah, that line bothers me a little bit every time.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. Like you said, I know what they're going for, but it just
But,
doesn't.
yep. It doesn't have the power that they were going for.
No, not when you think about tree sizes and,
Yeah.
growth of trees. My overall impression of this movie is that it's definitely toned down for the younger audience
Sure.
compared to the book. I didn't really notice it a whole lot up until the final scene with the fight with the basilisk, right?
Yep.
And I remember in the book the description of Harry just having blood poured on him, just drenched in blood, right?
Yes.
Because
Yes.
he just stabbed this giant snake through the head with a sword.
And it was gushing blood from its eyes too.
Yeah. So like this very vicious, visceral battle that happened, and
Yep.
the film was just like, really? Like
Yep.
it wasn't. They took that violent part out.
Yeah,
Which-
like they showed Fox like start to attack it, and
Mhm.
then they went to the whole we're keeping this PG and went off screen with it. It's
Right.
like here's a shadow of a shadow attacking a shadow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And just like, yeah, like a little bit of blood splatter on his robe, maybe. Like
maybe.
if
Yeah,
that like, wasn't
his
very
robe was
clear.
black. It's hard to tell.
Yeah, it definitely didn't feel like the giant battle that was depicted in the book. And I get it because they have ratings they need to
Yep.
stick to, and they can only show so much blood and gore on the film, but it didn't feel as impactful because of it.
Yeah, and honestly, like the whole battle with the basilisk, like it was stretched out so much from the book.
Mm-hmm.
Like I the more I thought about it, I like how short it was in the book. It was
Yeah.
short and to the point, and things happened. Like there were a lot of events that happened within that fight.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of things between. I mean, whether it was stabbing the diary, whether it was Harry's arm with the fang in it, and the Phoenix healing it, and all that stuff. And then in the movie, they went and like put these chase scenes in between all of these events, and it's like that. Yeah, didn't really happen.
Right.
Like the basilisk cornered Harry pretty quick, and he was stuck there.
Yeah. So like I would be interested to see like this film series reimagined with like a PG-13, like a hard PG-13 rating,
Sure. Yeah.
just to get a better representation of what they were trying in the book.
Yep.
I think that would be fun, and yeah, I think kids could probably still handle it, but who am I to judge? you have anything else big?
Well, maybe not big, but one other thing that got me thinking that I've never really put two and two together in the movie before. During the Quidditch match where Harry gets injured with the rogue bludger,
Yeah.
we actually get a shot of the audience. Did you notice anyone odd sitting there? They gave us close up of him at least twice.
I don't think so.
Mr. Lucius Malfoy.
Oh, right.
He was sitting at the Quidditch match.
Right.
And it got me thinking. It's like, okay, so it's a Slytherin match. He's the father of one of the kids playing. He's a governor at the school.
Mm-hmm.
He's very connected to this school.
Right.
But never, as far as I can remember, do we get the description of parents or anybody from outside the school coming to these matches.
Sure.
Which, the more I thought about it, it makes sense. You know, it would make sense to have them there because, like, if your kids have a basketball game or a softball game or something, the parents show up.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
it makes sense.
Yeah.
But we never get that here because Hogwarts is so far removed from all the other magical residents.
Right.
That they don't make the trip out there usually, as far as we know. Right. It's never mentioned at all.
I think I even pointed that out in the book when Mr. and Mrs. Weasley came to.
Yeah. You mentioned
after
that
Ginny was rescued. Like how big of a deal that was to me because we hadn't seen parents at Hogwarts.
Yeah, but Fred and George have been on the team for years now, and you don't see Mr. and Mrs. Weasley showing up to the games.
Right.
So it's like, yeah, why is he there? Like, even in the scope of the movie, I didn't think he needed to be there. And, like, I was trying to figure out why they would bother showing him there, unless they wanted to like make you suspect him. If you haven't read the book, it's like, oh, Mr. Malfoy might be behind this. He could be behind the rogue bludger because he was at the game, and
right.
That's the only thing I can think of. Like, but
maybe just to connect the dots a little bit more with him and Dobby.
Maybe,
you know,
okay, I can give you that because Dobby would have been at the match, and then he wouldn't have been away from his master necessarily.
Right.
But it was never described that way in the book, so
no,
I didn't see a reason to do it in the movie.
Yeah.
That was an interesting addition too, I thought, and it's like I couldn't draw any lines as to why.
Sure. I looked throughout the movie to see if Ginny was focused more in the movie.
Sure.
Just to see if you could make that connect the dots happen with her towards the end, and she really wasn't. Like, all the scenes with the attacks,
they really didn't show her much.
Yeah,
no. I mean, part of it is like they don't show the attacks. They usually just show the aftermath.
Right.
In which case, it was usually the trio stumbling across someone.
I was just curious if. Because, without going back and reading the book yet, like, if there were clues there that I missed the first time that they would showcase a little bit more in the movie that I could look for. Like, the first movie, every time I saw a Quirrell, I'm like, okay, I know what's going on here, like, I'm on to you.
Yeah, like I knew you were looking for that, and so I was kind of watching it too, and there was only one time I noticed, that was kind of close, but still didn't really get the feeling you were going for. Where was that? They were, I can't remember now. I just watched it tonight. But it was some instance, like Harry said something or did something, and then they cut to Ginny just like sitting. Oh, I think it might have been in the library, maybe. Possibly.
Maybe.
Like all the other kids were glancing at Harry and giving him these all looks because they were all like suspecting him at that point.
Right.
And then I think they cut to Ginny quick, and she was kind of glancing at Harry too and giving him this weird look that it's like,
sure.
Yeah, do you know what's going on? Yeah.
Yeah.
but it wasn't enough to say, oh yeah, Ginny has something to do with this.
Right. I think the only other big thing for me was Professor McGonagall teaching when Hermione wanted to know about the history of Hogwarts.
Yep. Yeah, we still I don't think in either movie have seen Professor Binns,
Right.
even though he's been mentioned at least in both books. I guess they just figured, well, we don't need to cast an extra person if we can just have one of the other teachers do it.
Right.
So.
And it's somebody that you're familiarizing with as the movie watcher, like throwing in all these additional characters that aren't getting the screen time, especially for something that like took 10 seconds. Would have been maybe slightly confusing. Like the audience would have been like, who's that? Like, why do we have another teacher?
Yeah. The only thing I didn't like is like then Hermione didn't like give her convincing argument as to why they should explain it, and I always get the opinion that McGonagall would be super tight-lipped about it.
Yeah, like a little hesitant.
She's not gonna give that up, and she just kind of like Hermione asks about it, and it's like she like gives a big sigh, and it's like, okay, here we go.
Right.
And it's like she didn't even put up a fight.
Yeah, that doesn't fit her character at all.
Yeah.
So.
But I mean, what are you gonna do? Have Snape tell you about it?
Right. Yeah, I mean, at that point, you don't have many options if you're not gonna cast somebody else to be a professor.
Yeah.
So. Overall, though, I liked the film. I'm enjoying getting a visual representation of the books that I'm reading. I think my biggest problem, and this will continue to be my biggest problem, is I'm watching the films immediately after finishing the book that I am so invested in that I am going to continuously find faults in the movies because I am so fresh off of reading the books. And I don't know if that's fair or not to the movie, but that's the only way to do this, you know?
Yeah. As far as this podcast is concerned, yes, it's the only way to do it. I've done it both ways, where I read book 1, watch movie 1, read book 2, watch movie 2. Mm-hmm. Or I've done it where I read books 1 through 7 and then watch movies 1 through 8.
Right.
It's kind of what I told you when you were having a hard time with the movie, is that you really have to separate the mediums and take each one for what it is. Like the movies, are they perfect? Absolutely not.
No. Absolutely not.
Do I think they could be improved? Yes. Are they simple improvements? Yes. But are we going to get a better version of this movie in my lifetime? I don't think so.
Right.
Like even if they tried it again, like I have Daniel Radcliffe and Emma Watson ingrained in my head.
Sure.
Like I don't think I could accept a different trio. So it's just like, even if they did make improvements to the story and the script and all these other things, I don't think, like I said, the casting was so good.
How do you recast that entire film?
Yeah, I don't think it would still be as good. So I think this is the best movie versions that we are going to get. And if you take them for what they are, like people who have just seen the movies, I think enjoy them just fine.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
They tell the stories. They're good movies.
Yep.
But yeah, when you make direct comparisons to the book, that's where you run into problems.
There's kind of a part of me that wishes that I could see the movie first and then read the book and then just be blown away by how much more the book expands on the movie.
Yeah.
You know, be like, oh, that scene was even better, you know, like be even more blown away by the detail in the book. But instead we have to do it the other way, to where I'm faulting the movie for not being as detailed as the book. And that's not necessarily fair to the film. I think we do have some fair criticisms of them, and I think there are some scenes that they are negligent in keeping from the movie, like the Death Day celebration.
Yep.
But there's also a part of me that I realize is being overly hard on it because the books are so good.
Yeah, but I think that just goes to show you people always make fun of people for saying this all the time.
Yeah.
But this is one series where it I think is 100% true. The books are better than the movies.
Yep.
That's just the way it is.
Yeah. But, you know, you really are only able to say that, I think, if you read the books first, you know?
Yeah.
Or at least be fully behind it.
I think it's safe to say that the majority of our listeners are in that position.
Yeah.
Because, like we said, the first movie didn't even come out till after the fourth book. So even if you got a late start, you probably started reading the books before the movies. Mm-hmm. And it's just the way that the vast majority of people have experienced it.
Yep. So I hate to sound so down on the film because I do enjoy it. I did like it. It's fun to sit there and just have some popcorn and watch everything kind of transpire that I just spent, 2 months reading and talking about and breaking down. And that is fun. That's super fun. That's super enjoyable. I love doing it. The films are not bad. They are really good. It's just the books are so much better and so much more detailed that the films can never, ever, ever possibly live up to them.
If you're looking for motivation to read the books, folks, there you go.
Yeah, absolutely. So do we have any emails this week, Matt?
We do actually.
All right.
Just one.
All right.
But thankfully, it is from our ever faithful Atari Alex. And he did not disappoint this week. He made up for the lack of everybody else's email. Maybe he just contacted everybody else and say, "Hey, what do you got? I'll put it all in one email for him."
This is a group email.
Yeah. In any case, dear Josh and Matt, well, we have officially come to the close of the Chamber of Secrets. It's a bittersweet farewell, but the series only gets better from here. So we can take solace in the fact that more excitement awaits us in the next book. Before I get to my thoughts on the movie, I need to address some things from the previous episode. First, as to your comments about the basilisk feeding off rats for 50 years. Sure, there were some rat skeletons near the entrance of the chamber, but not nearly enough to explain how the basilisk sustained itself for that long. Have you seen how big that snake is? Out of the email here. Okay, he also says that's a rhetorical question. But that was something else I did note too, is in the book, it mentions the snake skin they find is about 20 feet long. Right. In the movie, they say it's 60 feet.
Yep.
Yeah. Big difference there.
Yeah.
I guess the snake they created graphically must have been far too big for 20 feet.
Yeah.
So.
Well, they just wanted that big visual,
Yep. I wonder if they tried it. It's like, okay, if we make him this big around and only 20 feet long, he looks kind of short and stubbly. So we should stretch him out a little bit. Anyway. So yeah, have you seen how big that snake is? That's a rhetorical question. I know because we're talking about the movie. Unless there are ROUSs, which I wouldn't doubt, or that the rats magically multiply infinitely, which is also plausible. I don't think the basilisk was snacking on Scabber's cousins for half a century. So let's just say he went into a magical coma until the air reawakened it.
Sure. Hibernation. That's the thing.
Are you familiar with ROUSs?
Nope.
Really?
ROUS. No.
ROUSs.
ROUSs. No.
Rodents of unusual size?
No. No.
Have you seen The Princess Bride?
Yes.
Okay, then
Once.
you should be familiar. Wow. Okay. So that explains it. There's another movie I've seen probably dozens of times.
Andre the Giant was fantastic in it.
He was absolutely. But so were so many other people in that movie. That is a relatively star-studded movie.
At least I've seen it once, Matt.
Yeah,
That means we don't have to start a podcast about it.
There we go. That is the rodents of unusual size.
Okay.
That's where that comes from.
Gotcha.
I
just figured it was a term that I wasn't allowed to know for another 3 books.
Nope. Like you didn't fully react to it, and so I'm like, I wonder if he understands that at all.
No, because I'm sick and tired of asking you and you not being able to tell me. It gets old, Matt, me saying, what's that? No, you can't know about it till book 4. Nope, that's book 5. Nope, that's book 3.
Hey, I'm telling you, book 3 is going to be a lot of reveals for you.
I'm just saying I heard it all day at Harry Potter World, and I'm kind of just sick and tired of asking the question, because at this point I just assume it's something I'm going to eventually find out about.
Fair enough. Second, Josh's fear of eyeballs. This is totally unrelated to Harry Potter, but I need to know how he feels about watching A Christmas Story, and if he ever asked Santa for an official Red Ryder carbon action 200-shot range model air rifle before realizing the ocular dangers involved.
Never once, and that movie doesn't bug me because they don't actually show eye violence.
All right.
It's implied, but not shown. It's the showing of it that. Ugh. No thanks.
All right. Fair enough. Third, I don't know what kind of socks Harry wears or what kind of magical fibers they are made of, but there is no way I could fit one of my socks around an entire book. I also have to say I like the movie's portrayal of this scene more. Hiding the sock makes more sense, as Lucius would have no reason not to throw the diary to Dobby, whereas in the book version, with the sock so plainly visible, if Mr. Malfoy had thought for a second, he could have destroyed the sock instead of giving it to Dobby.
Right.
Then again, I've always thought that too. It's like, yeah, you put the book in a sock. That's kind of weird.
Sure.
But
also, I see the book as being like a small little journal, like not a big book.
Well, okay, compared to the book in the movie, smaller or bigger?
Smaller.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I was thinking, it being flushed down a toilet, and what size would that have to be for it to be feasible?
And honestly, that's probably what J.K. had in mind.
Mm-hmm.
Just for the fact that she wrote it as putting it in a sock.
Yeah.
But yeah, for the movie they made it bigger, and so that's what everybody has in mind now.
Sure.
Where do we leave off here? Then again, I don't like in the movie when Harry lifts his pant leg to show that it was his sock. I think that was inferred by the audience, and it just made it look like he was gloating, which is uncharacteristic of him. But in the end, it doesn't really matter because there was a happy ending anyway. All very true. Yeah. I never cared for that. It's like, yeah, we all know that was Harry's sock. Or we can assume it was Harry's sock. It's a safe assumption.
Right. I didn't mind it. And honestly, I think gloating is kind of part of Harry's personality, especially when it comes to Slytherin and the Malfoys. He's 100% about one-upping them.
You think so?
Anybody else, he's pretty humble, but with Draco especially, and then his father because of what he was just put through and all that, I can see him gloating a little bit.
He okay, I can give you maybe he wants to one-up them, but he's not gonna rub it in their face. I don't think.
I think it's just hey, yeah, that was me. Gotcha. Dobby's free because of me.
Yeah, but I think just the whole fact that Harry ran out and gave him the book, why else would he do that?
I think it's in Harry's personality to 100% be like, yeah, this was because of me.
All right.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
I see that in him. He's not the Percy perfect. He's a little troublemaker, he's broken rules for 2 books now. He has a little tough guy to him, a little bad guy. I mean, he has some Slytherin in him, right?
Okay,
Let's just throw that out there. He would be a good fit in the Slytherin household. So
yes,
if we're to accept that fact, we have to also accept the fact that he might have the ability to gloat a little bit on small victories.
but it's all about the choices that he makes,
And he made that choice.
which, yeah, would put him more towards the Slytherin house, though.
Well, he freed. I think him freeing Dobby overrules any gloating that he did, as far as like positive and negative karma.
I'm just gonna have to let you have that one, I guess.
Okay.
Finally, a comment not pertaining to the previous show. How does Madame Pomfrey administer the Mandrake potion to nearly headless Nick? He's a ghost, so it's not like they could pour it down his throat. This brings me back to the point from many episodes ago about whether it's possible to ghostify objects, and then perhaps another school ghost administered the potion. Or maybe J.K. Rowling didn't think it through and didn't feel like coming up with an explanation.
Probably just splashed it on him.
Yeah, and that's something I've never really thought of, but like when I did think about it, it's like I would have tried like putting it in like a spray bottle and like misting it into the air, and
Sure.
his ghostly particles would be able to latch onto it.
I see it kind of like an exorcism with like the holy water, just like flicking it, like just flicking it through the air.
Yeah,
I don't know.
that would work.
Also, we totally forgot to mention how great the mandrakes were in this film.
That's right. We did not touch
So
on them.
good. They were so perfect. I loved them so much. They were so funny, so hideous.
I'm glad they came through for you.
So hideous, so ugly, so
Yep.
funny. I need some more mandrakes in my life.
See what we can do.
Yeah.
You know, there's a Funko Papa one, right?
Yeah, I know.
All right, let's move away from the past and back to the present. In my email about the first movie, I said I had more thoughts about the book versus film argument, and while I still have a strong opinion on the matter, this email is going to be long enough already, so I'll spare you this time. First and foremost, Josh, my condolences on not getting to see any denoming in the movie. I'm sure you're heartbroken. Having known all along your wish wouldn't be fulfilled, I simultaneously laughed at you and despaired for you every time you got your hopes up about seeing it happen.
Thanks, Alex.
Other than that, my thoughts on the first movie mostly still apply here. Details are traded for visuals, the music is wonderful, and the acting is great across the board. The children's performances are noticeably better, though still not amazing, and you can already start to see them hitting puberty, which is pretty humorous. But of all the roles in this movie, Kenneth Branagh's portrayal of Lockhart stands out above the rest. He does an amazing job of bringing Lockhart's charming, aloof attitude to life, making him so much fun to hate.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, you would agree with that. I think we brought that up. A few other small nitpicks. First, in the scene in Flourish and Blots, they go out of their way to show Harry noticing when Lucius Malfoy drops the diary into Ginny's cauldron. If he had said something then, he could have avoided himself and everyone else from a whole lot of headache. And yeah, I've always liked that they kind of zoom in on the cauldron when he puts the books back. And if you look close, he puts 2 books back instead of just 1 that he had been holding the entire time. And then all of a sudden he puts 2 back. It's like, okay, he put something extra in there. But I don't like, that they immediately after that show Harry looking down at it. It's like, what was that? Like, no, Harry didn't. He didn't know.
Sure.
He didn't find out till later that the Malfoys were in any way connected.
Yeah.
So yeah, not really a fan of that either. Another very curious thing I noticed is, which may have also been present in the Philosopher's Stone, was that many of the spells they used visually did the same thing. In the dueling club scene, Snape uses Expelliarmus, then Draco and Harry each use 2 different spells, but all 3 did the same thing, sending the opponent flying into the air and knocking them backwards. In the books, all 3 spells have distinctly different effects, as they should, but either out of laziness or some unfathomable reason, they give us very boring generic effects, which takes away from the magic literally and figuratively, which is disappointing.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're. I mean, I don't know exactly what you're gonna do. Like. Yeah, they were described differently in the book, but I'd have to go back and read it again. Like how, like visually, would that have been easy to differentiate?
Right. Well, one of them was a tickling spell, right?
Oh yeah, by the end of it, Harry was using the tickling spell.
Right.
And I mean that's the other big difference between the book and the movie is in the book they break off everybody into pairs and everybody goes at it. Whereas here it's like, oh, let's bring up Harry and Malfoy and put them on the main stage and everybody watch them.
Right, right.
Like that's not how it happened.
Yeah, to speed up the process, I guess.
Yeah.
Also, speaking of that in the whole scene, would it have killed them to add a little to add some subtitles to the parcel tongue?
No, but well, okay, yeah, I guess in the book we just had Harry's words.
Right. And then we found out that he was speaking parcel tongue. But here, you hear him speaking another language, but you have no idea what he's saying.
Yeah, and it was just an interesting choice. I think you were supposed to get it from the reaction of the snake.
Yeah.
Because I didn't like that when he first started talking to it. It was just kind of hissing angrily at everybody. Mm-hmm. And then after he spoke the first time, it started hissing angrily at Justin.
Right.
And like that, no, that makes it seem like, yeah, he told it to attack. And then when he spoke again, it turned to Harry and stopped hissing, shut its mouth, and just went to being a very calm snake, which I think was the effect they were going for, from angry hissing at Justin to calming the snake. But I didn't like it. Like, it should have been like from the get-go, it's like, okay, what's going on? And then start going after someone, and then Harry talks to it.
Right.
And says, okay, you need to stop this, and then it stops. So yeah, I don't know if I would have actually preferred subtitles, because then, well, I mean, I guess we did have Harry's actual words in the book, but like,
I get you what you're saying, but like also,
yeah, like I think for the effect, it was better that we just heard the parcel tongue.
Right, but for readers of the book, you knew what he was saying and you knew what was going on.
Yeah.
Whereas like the movie watchers are like, what is going on? Like what is even happening right now?
Yeah, and that's just the decision the director made, I guess. It's like in the book we went from Harry's perspective, and in the movie we went from everybody else's perspective.
Right. Who knows?
So, yeah, one of those decisions they made.
Yeah.
Next, in the chamber, Harry tells Riddle that Dumbledore is the greatest sorcerer in the world, and then Fawkes flies in with the Sorting Hat, whereas in the book he simply appears in a flash of fire. Losing that small detail not only fails to establish another awesome Phoenix power, but it also doesn't make sense because it would have taken him a lot longer to fly there than to simply teleport.
Yeah, we don't know where he teleported from. Like maybe
exactly,
he
like
flashed and fire off camera.
That's kind of what I assumed. It's like because he obviously didn't fly through the entire tunnel because it was blocked off.
Yeah.
Like otherwise Ron would be there too.
Right.
But yeah, I think he teleported into the tunnel and then made his entrance from there.
Yep.
I think that's fair to say.
Yeah.
The last thing I want to complain about is that the Sword of Gryffindor simply appears in the hat without Harry putting it on or asking for help. I get why they did it, since the book's version wouldn't be very appealing to look at, but we don't get the funny scene of Harry almost getting knocked out. But more importantly, we don't see Harry earning the right to use the sword or reaffirm his connection with the Gryffindor house. The sword just shows up and he goes with it.
Yeah. I agree with that.
Yep, I can give him that one.
Yeah. Because asking for help was a big deal.
Yep.
So.
Finishes up with, there are plenty of other comments it could make, but this email has gone on way too long already, so I'll just leave it at that. Thanks, Alex.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Alex.
Yeah.
A lot of good points.
Absolutely. He is in all the way with us here.
Yep. For better or for worse. Matt, that pretty much wraps up the show here.
It does.
Which means it's time to make the big announcement, the exciting announcement as to what's next for Tales from Godric's Hollow. Do you want to do the honors, please?
So, here at Tales from Godric's Hollow, we have decided that, well, you guys have really latched on to what we've been doing here. You've been getting into it more and more, and we decided we not only want to kind of reward you for that as much as we can, but we would love to do more with it. Seeing that Josh has really fell in love with the Harry Potter world, I think it's safe to say at this point, 2 books in,
Yeah.
that we want to do as much as we can with the Harry Potter world.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we can. So in order to do that, we could use a little more help from you, though. So this is where we have created a Patreon page. For those of you who don't know, Patreon is a site, patreon.com, where creators like us, whether we're creating podcasts or YouTube videos, or there are a lot of artists on here, whether it be some people do it as a way to kind of like commission work. If you make physical paintings, you can do it, but a lot of people do it for digital content as well, because that's the age we're in.
Yep.
And so in order for us to continue doing this and spend more time with it, to make it better for not only us, but for you, is for us to create this Patreon page. And what it is, if you're not familiar with it, is a way for you to donate money. And I know I don't want to say I'm asking for your money, because it's completely optional.
Yeah.
That what you're hearing right now is not going to change. The podcast is free. That's the way it's always going to be. We're not charging you for that. This is just if you want to go above and beyond, if you like what you hear, and there will be rewards along with this. So if you decide to donate, you're going to get either, some things are just like early access to the things we do. Some things are in addition to the podcast. We'll be giving you something else.
Right.
So, like I said, nothing that you're doing, seeing, and hearing right now is going to change. But if you like what we are doing and you want more, this is a way to help us deliver that to you.
Absolutely. This is not a threat. We will not take away the podcast. We will not stop it if we don't raise X amount of dollars. Nothing like that will happen. This will continue to march on week by week, as it has been for several months now,
yes,
until I am done with this entire series. That is a guarantee. Nothing, we are not holding it hostage. So please don't think that. This is just a way to add more of what we're doing for you guys out there.
Yeah, it's a way that's gonna allow Josh and I to dive deeper into the world of Harry Potter. And what I hope to do with a lot of these reward levels is to involve you, the listener, out there even more. That whether it's just getting some kind of correspondence from us on a monthly basis, or whether it's we have some things in here about chat rooms or actual Google Hangouts where we can get together and talk Harry Potter with you guys directly. Like it's great getting the emails. I love getting the emails, but it's so delayed. You know, we give you a show one week and then you write us and then we read it and then we do another show and respond to it, and it's great, but I think it can be better.
Yeah.
And so if you're out there and you want more from us, if you want more from the Harry Potter community, if you want to get together with other people in the Harry Potter community, here's another option.
Absolutely. And to be completely upfront and honest about it, a lot of the money raised is going to go to hosting fees for the podcast. A full-on website eventually is a goal. More giveaways.
Absolutely.
We absolutely want to do more of that to reward you guys for sticking with us, for enjoying the ride as we are, giving back as much as we possibly can to make this community fun and exciting, and just overall, what we hope it can be.
Yep. More Harry Potter for everyone.
Yeah.
It's a good thing.
Yeah. So please feel free to ask us any questions you may have about it, any concerns you have about it. We are completely open and honest about what it is, but it is intended to further the experience, to build a bigger and a more expansive community, and to reward you guys as much as possible for sticking with it and listening to my crazy theories week in and week out.
Yep. So, since I haven't mentioned it yet, you can head over to patreon.com/Tales from Godric's Hollow. Figured it's a little bit long to type, but it's going to be the most memorable because if you're listening to the show, you know the name of the show,
right?
And that's going to be the simplest.
Yep. We'll have that on Twitter as well.
Absolutely.
So go over there, check it out. Let us know what you think of the tiers and the rewards that we have set up. Matt put a lot of hard work into establishing them. We think they're a lot of fun. They will go pretty far into our goals for this as a community.
And honestly, if you have an idea of something that you would like to see in that rewards list, let me know.
Yeah.
This is just me and Josh brainstorming.
Right.
Like, if you guys have an idea, I want to hear about it. I'm not going to guarantee that we'll do it.
Sure.
But that's I'm trying to give you guys things I think you'll like and enjoy.
Right.
And if you can come up with something that's not on this list, I would love to hear about it.
Yep. Just like the show itself, we are always open to suggestions and feedback. So patreon.com/Tales from Godric's Hollow. Check it out. And the best part about it is most of the stuff that Matt mentions in it, I don't know what he's talking about. He has all kinds of crazy names for these things, and I don't have a clue what he's talking about.
Yes, I very much hope that Potter fans out there will enjoy it. I had some fun with it.
Yeah, definitely. So that is live as of now. When you are listening to this, it is live. You can go check it out. So please do so. And regardless, like I said, we will definitely be back next week, because next week we start book 3, the infamous book 3, the book that everybody tells me is their favorite. I've yet to run into anybody that has actually said anything but book 3 is their favorite. So
sure,
if this book doesn't live up to the hype, folks, I'm telling you what, you all disappoint me, because the bar is set extremely high, and let's just hope we clear it.
So speaking of book 3, we should mention that briefly. The schedule for reading book 3 is up on the website, talesfromthegodricshollow.com. But just very simply, we are sticking for the entirety of book 3 with our 2 chapters a week.
Yep.
So chapters 1 and 2 for next week, if you're reading along with us.
As tough as it is, it's the best way to do it. So.
Yep.
With that being said, like I said, we will be back next week. Book 3, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban.
You got it.
Okay, perfect. You could find me personally on Twitter at The Noise. Be sure to follow the show on Twitter at Tales from GH. And Matt, where can people find you at?
You can find me personally on Twitter at As a Matter of Matt. Or if you'd like to reach out to the show, keep something out of Josh's eyes, out of the public circuit, you can reach us at talesfromgodricshollow@gmail.com.
Yep. And once again, the website, talesfromgodricshollow.com, and the brand new, very exciting Patreon page is patreon.com/talesfromgodricshollow. I hope everybody has a wonderful Thanksgiving that is celebrating Thanksgiving. I'm sure we have an international audience that it will be a normal Thursday for them. I hope everybody has a great Thursday, regardless of what holiday you may or may not be celebrating. Yeah. Book 3 next week.
It's coming up fast.
Let's do it. Till then, Muggle out.
Mischief managed.